Okay, this standard 7.NS.1 is dealing with adding and subtracting rational numbers, and this standard NS1A specifically is about adding opposites to equal 0. So we're going to look at problem number 1. What number do you need to add to positive 6 to get 0? So you just need the opposite of positive 6, which is negative 6. And when you add opposites, it equals 0. Number 3. At 11 p.m., it was 48 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature was 6 degrees cooler by 7 a.m. By 11 a.m., the temperature was 48 degrees Fahrenheit again. What integer represents the number of degrees the temperature changed from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m.? So first we know that at 11 p.m., it was 48 degrees Fahrenheit. But by 7 a.m., it was 6 degrees cooler. So 48 minus 6 is 42 degrees Fahrenheit. And then by 11 a.m., it was 48 degrees again. So what was the change in temperature? From 42 to 48, it increased 6 degrees Fahrenheit. Number 6, June starts hiking at sea level. First, we need to know that sea level is a height of 0 feet. She climbs 500 feet and then descends 175 feet. So that means that she is now at a positive 325 feet. Which integer represents the change in elevation June still needs to complete in order to reach sea level? So 325 plus what number equals 0? Well, that would be its opposite, negative 325. Answer choice D. Standard NS1B is still adding and subtracting rationals, but we're using a number line. Looking at number 1, a number line shows values A and B. How long is the line between A and B? So we could think of this in terms of distance on a number line. This segment from A to 0 is just the absolute value of A. This segment from 0 to B is the absolute value of B. If we add the absolute value of A to the absolute value of B, we get that entire distance. Number 2, when she woke in the morning, Josie noticed the temperature outside was negative 4.8 degrees Celsius. When she got home from school, the temperature rose to 15.6 degrees Celsius. What was the change in temperature? So first of all, notice that it started in the negatives and then it went up to the positives, and we want to find the span between these. So we could use that concept we just talked about to find the absolute value of negative 4.8 and add it to the absolute value of 15.6. So that's one way we could do this and say, well, it's 4.8 degrees from 0 plus 15.6 degrees from 0 the other direction. So the total is 20.4 degrees Celsius, and it was a positive change. It increased. Number 3, what number makes this equation true? Well, some number plus a negative 17.2 equals 0. That number would be positive 17.2 because opposites add to 0. Number 5, what is the distance between the 2 points on the number line? We could use this concept of looking at the absolute value or distance from negative 4 to 0 is the absolute value of negative 4, and the absolute value or distance from 0 to 3 is the absolute value of 3. And we could add them together and say, well, the absolute value of negative 4 plus the absolute value of 3 is like saying 4 plus 3, which is 7. Another thing we could do is we could just count the distance on the number line. From negative 4 to positive 3, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Standard NS1C and D, this is all to do with adding and subtracting. So number 2, Jason and Julio live on the same street as their school. Based on the diagram, how far apart do Jason and Julio live? Notice they are on the same street of their school and they're in complete opposite directions. So I can add this distance from Julio to the school, which is the absolute value of negative 4.5, to this distance from the school to Jason, which is the absolute value of 3.5. And so the absolute value of negative 4.5, or the distance from Julio to the school, is actually 4.5 units, to the absolute value of 3.5, which is 3.5, equals 8. So I get positive 8 miles. Notice the distance is always positive. You cannot have a negative distance. Moving on to the next problem, number 6. If a minus b is 7, what is also true? Well, let's notice that this is subtraction. And we do have a little rule for subtraction that says that we can change it to addition by adding the opposite. So let's think. We have a. Instead of subtracting, we're going to add. And the opposite of positive b is negative b to equal 7. And that gives us answer choice 6. Answer choice B. A plus negative b equals 7. On the back of that page, number 10, what's the value of this expression? Well, we're subtracting mixed numbers. If they could go to terminating decimals, it'd be easy to change them to decimals, but 1 1/6 goes to a repeating decimal. So I'm going to change them both to improper fractions, and we're going to use the method that many students like to call around the world, where we're going to multiply the denominator 5 times the numerator, times the whole number 3, and then add the numerator 2. So I've got negative 17 fifths minus 7 sixths. Now I need common denominators when I'm adding and subtracting fractions. So 30 would be a common denominator here. And I think 5 times what is 30? 6. 17 times 6 is 102. Then I think 6 times what is 30? 5. And 7 times 5 is 35. So we get negative 137 over 30. And 30 will go into negative 137, negative 4 times, with 17 remaining out of 30. Number 11, what's the value of this expression? I would like to clean this up a little bit. So I've got negative 13, and then I have this minus a negative, which is the same as adding 5. And then we have this plus a negative, which is the same as subtracting 3. And we'll bring down this plus 4 minus 7. So I'm just going to go through here and do this one step at a time. This is order of operations. Adding and subtracting is the same step, and we're going left to right. So negative 13 plus 5 is negative 8. Bring everything down. Negative 8 minus 3 is negative 11. Bring everything down. Negative 11 plus 4 is negative 7. Bring everything down. And then negative 7 minus 7 is negative 14. For problem number 14, the temperature in Grand Forks, North Dakota was 53 degrees Fahrenheit in the afternoon. After the sun went down, the temperature dropped to negative 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit. What was the change in temperature? We could do this a couple different ways. We could find the distance between 53 degrees and 0 and add that to the distance between 0 and negative 1.5. We could actually take the larger number, 53, and subtract the smaller number, negative 1.5, which would have the same effect. I'm going to do that for a change here. So that's like saying 53 plus 1.5, which is 54.5. And I know that it changed 54.5 degrees. I just got to think, did it increase or did it decrease? Well, it was a drop. So it decreased negative 54.5 degrees. Answer choice B.